Talking NHL, please bring in Gord Stellick. Gordy, this is a thrill of mine. I've been a fan of yours since the 80s. And as you just and I listen to you every morning on NHL radio, you just discovered we had an old email address for you or something. We've been trying for ages to get you on. And I'm like, he's not responding. I hear he's a great guy, but he's ignoring us. You finally got it to work, Gord.
Yeah,
is that the deal?
I rely on my wife and my kids, as far as technological stuff goes. So yes, I got a different email. I'm glad we connected. Caught the show, of course. So I just thought I thought you were Scott Laughlin crazy. So I'm glad to be part of the group. How about that?
Well, we are. I'm a big fan of Scott's too, but I'm glad to connect with you, man. And I guess you're here to talk hockey, and let's do that. One thing I've been asking is if there's one team that's going to make the playoffs this year that didn't last year, who would that? Maybe there'll be more than one, but who's the one team that you think has the best chance to get in that didn't last year or for a while?
Well, yeah, it's funny, all the different teams. What are the Calgary Flames this year, right? Big mystery. What are the St. Louis Blues? I'll say St. Louis in the West because I like where they're going. I think maybe they could be a little bit of this year's Nashville and, being that kind of pleasant surprise. So I'm looking there. And then, man, the East, Rod, wow. At the end of it, Pittsburgh was 8-2-2 and didn't make the playoffs. And, Detroit should have been there, then fell out at the end. And I still say it's going to be the Detroit Red Wings because, when Patrick Kane signed with the team last year, I thought that was it, game, set, match. Now he's back again. He doesn't want to be on a team that's not going to be in the playoffs. So I got to think that they are the team, but it's going to come down to the final day, which I've loved because I can't stand those seasons where, it's decided game number 75 rather than game number 82.
It's interesting. So all the NHL fans have perked up. Jay in Winnipeg writes in and he says the Jets are going with all their starters tonight except Hellebuck. They've got the Oilers in there. The Panthers just put out their lineup for the game in Orlando tonight I just mentioned, and I don't know any of these guys. Well, I know who they are, but they're not vets. Gordy, you've been through this. I don't think the NHL preseason has changed from your day as a GM to now. The coaches don't want anybody to get hurt. What's your take on the preseason?
Well, Rod, if it went by preseason records, I would be tied with Scotty Bowman. I would still be there for 40 years in a general manager's chair based on great preseasons followed by not such great regular seasons. And you see it in every sport right now except baseball. There's spring training's got a rhythm to it, getting your arms going, but NBA has no preseason basically. NFL, CFL, really basically none as well. And so you've got the disparity of the younger players trying to make an imprint, the veteran players trying to get in shape and just not get hurt, and then continually the road team bringing a lineup of AHLers and the home team loading up like Winnipeg is tonight. So it's almost like they're even tough to evaluate. And you do basically give that, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 regular season games. Say a guy like Easton Cowan in Toronto. It's accepted that whether he's ready for the NHL or not, that he'll get more of a test when the regular season begins, and other teams will do the same to see these top prospects in real games and where they fare. The other part is if you're the Ottawa Senators or Columbus or a team that struggled, San Jose, Anaheim, you name it, you got a chance to make an impression. You got a chance the old-fashioned way that you could be a marginal player that makes an impression, and they've been so bad that there's spots there and they value how you played and you might slide into an NHL spot.
Well, and I guess it's different team by team than team then. I think the Flames are trying to build some confidence, and Huberdeau had 3 assists the other night. So everybody's excited about that, yet the Oilers don't care that they dropped 2 games to the Flames in split squad, right? So it's different for every team, basically.
Oh, it is. It is. You're right. You got the winning teams are the ones that, they're just tuning up. Others look in Buffalo. How much is it important for Lindy Ruff to have a winning culture? Again, they're beating AHL lineups, but just that intangible about starting out with a win. I tend to minimize it, but I thought in Utah that was a great event. That's one place it was an event. It was an exhibition game, and the way they won it, added to the theater that went on. But I love right now, the very best time of year is the playoffs because you've got 16 teams that made it full of optimism. This is a different kind because you've got 32 teams and it's all their best case scenarios right now. they're looking at the board and kind of going, what if all this happens? What if Rod makes it this year? What if that Scott Laughlin free agent, and all these things, and we become the Nashville of this year. And very quickly in the regular season, teams will start to fall back, have losing streaks, develop problems. But right now, I do, that's one thing I miss working with a team. It is a genuine optimism. I said the other day, it's not like starting school. If you got a 50 in calculus last year, you ain't getting a 70, okay? You're just hoping you're going to get by. But with an NHL team, the sky's the limit right now as far as your optimism goes.
Well, but what I like about you on the radio is you're honest and you're not affiliated with a team, so you can be honest. And I want your opinion on this. Everybody's excited about Utah across the NHL. The fans certainly are. And I'm like, they're not an expansion team. They're the Arizona Coyotes. So, there's excitement, Gord. You can feel that. But I don't think they're going to be any good. I just feel like the fans need to, figure it out on their own. Because I don't think they're going to be any good. You?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, they're still there. It's funny. The West has a lot of teams, and I throw Utah in there. Chicago, two of the California-based teams that really don't appear to be ready to be in the playoffs, where in the East, everybody, even Columbus, thinks they're going to be in the playoffs. Montreal, or fight for the playoffs. Montreal still says they're doing a rebuild. They may be better off than Columbus. But and by the way, the coach in Arizona, now Utah, he got a lot of little players. Like, that team played hard, but there was no question. The arena was a joke. The whole thing, what's going to happen, linger over, that's been answered. And at least the one thing, Rod, now is you see commitment to some of the contracts long-term, adding a Sergachev, not always being the dumping ground. Hey, you got a contract, you want cap space, we'll give you cap space. Well, at some point, you got to fight for a playoff spot. I don't think, to your point, they're quite there yet. But at least it's a positive environment where they're going to. And I look forward. I just was tired. It was like Arizona was, wake me up when it's over. I'm tired of hearing this. I know it's not going to end well except for the owner. And that's exactly what happened.
And further to that, they signed Dylan Guenther to a long-term deal. And Connor Ingram was the Masterton winner last year. So, they're in it till Christmas. I don't think anybody could have got more out of them than Andre Tournier did. But there's still that team. Now, to your honesty, I just want to know your thought on expansion, because I didn't hear this, but on NHL radio recently, somebody said there's going to be 2 more expansion teams on the horizon. They didn't say necessarily where, but the league's going to 34 teams. Do you really believe that?
Oh, at some point, yes. Now Gary Bettman very quickly has put, water over the fire about it. But let's face it, if it's not a reality in the next year or 2 or 3 or whatever, I agree with them there. But no question, you look at, they're licking their chops. What happened? The money they split from Seattle, the money they split from Las Vegas. And it's a credit to the league. I know the players, it's funny, there was the big Amazon presser the other day in Toronto about, the new Monday Night Hockey, and some of them are ex-players there, and they go back to 2005 and the lost year of hockey, and they don't view the cap as a good thing. The Gary Bettman prefers to call it cost certainty. Look what it's done for the value of franchises. Like, if you could buy any business and you're basically, you're going to get revenue sharing, there's a TV deal, and you know what your expenses are, they're fixed. And that's why it's gone so well. And that's why it's looked as an attractive situation. Whether you go back to Arizona, they always talk about Houston. They're talking about Atlanta again. I don't know if the ship has sailed in Quebec City. The LA Kings are going to play a couple of exhibition games there later on. And I brought up a second team in Toronto just because there's an urban myth, unsubstantiated, but the two media giants, Rogers and Bell Globe Media, were the co-owners of the majority shares. And Rogers bought out Bell Globe Media. It's kind of like Fox and CNN or whatever or ESPN would be the comparables. And there had been an urban myth that when that happens, the other situation, Bell Globe Media here, would have the right to pursue a new second team in the Toronto area and not have to indemnify territorial rights to the existing team, because that's a big nut that you've got to overcome. So there's a whack of things in place. So even though Gary Bettman may say, and I believe him, there's no expansion right now on the horizon, everyone's got to love it that if you own a house and all you're hearing is how expensive everything is going, even if you're not moving, you love it, right? That's what you want to hear. So I believe at some point, yes, it'll be up to 34 and at some point 36. It seems, and I'm not excited about it. It's just the reality nowadays.
I guess if it doesn't really affect the quality of play, then I'm all for it too. I'm all for more teams, absolutely. Let me just say this, Gord. Are you a day one guy at SiriusXM? I know Lachlan is. Were you a day one guy there?
No, because after day one, they upped the standards since they brought in Scott Lachlan, those guys. You know, it's a
Day
higher
two guy?
bar. Yes, I'm about a day two guy. So before, like on the media side, I had a all sports show on the first all sports station in Canada, The Fan, in Toronto. I had about a 17-year run, and it was a great run. I was very fortunate. Did some TV stuff as well. And then I kind of morphed over. And you know what, Rod? I'm not being a shill here. Like, it's great how NHL Network Radio has really, really grown, and shows like yours, because we know the old terrestrial radio has some challenges in a big, big way. And I fortunately enjoyed the gravy days of The Fan. So I got in about 9 years ago or so at NHL Network, and I believe it's going to be my final home as far as radio goes, and it's going great. Like, it kicks ass, and it's fun to talk hockey, but I would say I'm a day two guy.
Well, selfishly, I hope it's your last job because I really enjoy it. But I think about this often. They had this deal in 2005 when it launched. For $500, you could have a lifetime satellite membership. And I didn't have $500, so I kept paying monthly. I've given them thousands of dollars. I should have paid the $500 at the time, but you know what? It's worth it for the $20 a month or whatever to love it that much. Gordy, thank you so much, man. Obviously, we've been wanting to do this for a while. It was as good as I'd hoped. Enjoy the hockey.
Yeah, we'll chat down the road. Thanks. And I'm going to try extra harder tomorrow, knowing how much money you've put into SiriusXM. So we appreciate that as well. Okay, Rod? Okay. I'll give you that.
All right. Gord Stellick joining us, Stellicktricity.